Hello, everybody. Welcome to SportsBeat on WAB. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Luke Schmitt, your host for today, and joining me at the desk is
Reece Merkel,
Mallon,
Kasey Hill,
Craig Neal.
We have another hour to cover the biggest news in sports, so let's look over our topics for today. We'll kick things off with OU football's thrilling homecoming victory over Northern Illinois. From there, we'll move on to volleyball, where they celebrate another impressive weekend series sweep. And next, we'll cover Ohio soccer as they notch their first win in over a month. And after that, we'll switch gears to our MLB World Series preview. And of course, we'll wrap up the episode with our Upset Watch picks and weekly awards. SportsBeat starts right now. So everyone at the table, just kind of talked about that intro. OU, massive victory this weekend over Northern Illinois following the bye week. We talked about this game the past two episodes, following that Ball State loss and on the bye week. So, Reece, just kind of walk me through that story of the game. The Bobcats jumped out to an early 21-0 lead and just built off that from there. So, I don't know, just tell me how they did that, how they built from there.
Yeah, no, OU, they beat Northern Illinois 48-21. The Bobcats dominated both sides of the ball. It was honestly like they were a Power 4 team. Mm-hmm. We talked about this duo during the Gardner-Webb game. Duncan Brune and Say Bangura, they combined for 273 yards and 5 tutties. The offensive line looked honestly like Ohio State's offensive line. They looked phenomenal. It just only allowing one sack. It really couldn't do anything against this offensive line. You could throw anything at them, they would stop it. Mm-hmm. The other side of the ball, they caused havoc in the front seven. Jay Crable, Joseph Marsh, they both had one sack. Jalen Thomason had 91-yard fumble recovery for a tutty. It was also caused by Charlie Christopher, who had a huge game.
Mm-hmm. And, you kind of talked about how important that rushing attack was. And we talked about that, during the bye week off-season little period for OU, just getting that, brand of running, back on the team, kind of refining their identity in the run game, as it hadn't been a huge point of interest. But, when you have two guys over 120 yards rushing with multiple touchdowns, that's just great. What else on that offense? What about Parker Navarro? Anything from the receiving core stand out to you?
We saw Chase Hendricks be Chase Hendricks. 10 receptions, I want to say around 105 receiving yards. But it was really mostly the running game that got this Bobcat offense going. It especially started up in that front five. Going from the Ball State game, they rushed for 168 yards combined. But in this game, they rushed for 333 yards combined among 4 rushers, obviously led by Bangura and Brune. Parker Navarro, he did say post-game, and I quote, "When we're running the ball well, I don't think anyone can stop us in this league." Which really brings this question, do we think if they keep up this running game, could we see them right back in the MAC championship?
We once again have to give the shout out to C.A. Bangura, who proves himself to be the most incredible running back on homecoming. Yeah. 3 rushing touchdowns, 147 yards, and 1 on this year's game. And over his homecoming career, 3 wins, 9 touchdowns, 318 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Once again, all-purpose back when we need him the most, and really proving that Ohio wants to have that rushing offense identity, and then they make a statement against the MAC as they move into conference play, and the field is theirs. We saw a lot of sort of steps back from other teams across the MAC this week, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Ohio kind of claws their way up the rankings as the season continues.
Yeah, and speaking of those MAC rankings, just taking a little peek, it kind of looks not what you expect right now. You got Buffalo, Miami, Western Michigan in front. You have Ball State in front of OU right now because of that loss. So Ohio still, they're going to have some work to do. There's still some heavy hitters, but those normal faces like Toledo, they're at 2-2 right now. So it really is anyone's conference at this point. And moving forward to next week, the Bobcats have Eastern Michigan. Eastern's 2-6 overall, 1-3 in conference. Reece or anyone else at the table, tell me if you guys have any predictions or any trends you think that any keys to success for the Bobcats in this game.
I'll start it out. It is that running offense. So far this year, this Eagles defense has allowed 255 rushing yards per game. and I mean per game. They are dead last in the rankings or in the stats category in the entire nation. The last 2 games, 295 yards and 238 yards combined between all rushers from both teams. So really, we should see Bangura and Brune just getting ran right into the ground.
Yeah. And, I'm really excited to look kind of a little bit past this game at the remaining schedule. We have some action on next Tuesday against Miami, Ohio. Battle of the Brick should be a great game. And, this end of the season kind of schedule, it's going to be a good one for the Bobcats. I think it's going to be one that tests them because you got Miami, Western Michigan, and Buffalo, as I just said, who are they are in front of them in the MAC standings. So, they don't play Toledo, but they have those opponents. So I think that'll be interesting, Connor.
It's going to be really fun to kind of not just watch the Bobcats this week, but kind of taking a look across the MAC, because Miami plays Western Michigan this week, and then OU then proceeds to go and host Miami for Tuesday night action for the first time in the season, and then we'll host Western Michigan a week later. I mean, we're going to get to watch, have a good look across the MAC to see what our opponents are going to throw out there, so I think it'll be good to see what they've got and take a look at, how OU is going to be able to probably take advantage of running the table.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'd agree with that entertainment. I love Parker Navarro's dual threat. He's the most entertaining rusher, in my opinion. I love watching him on his feet.
I would have to disagree. I think I like seeing Bangura I love seeing Bangura and Brune just run someone over.
I get it, but he's so entertaining. I love to watch him get around the edge.
I mean, sometimes, but nothing beats a really good truck. And then, Connor, to kind of correct you, we are at Western Michigan. They are at Western Michigan.
Apologies.
Okay. And then, kind of circling back to the Eastern game just a little bit, this is an Eastern team, like you kind of talked about it, Reese, they're not, exceptionally well in the MAC. Does this kind of give you kind of the same vibes as Ball State, where, it's a team who kind of sits a little bit back in the standings, kind of a rocky schedule to start the season, could this be like the game, like OU has to take seriously, like, because you don't want to fall to like another Ball State loss again?
I would say maybe. They don't really have that D-line that Ball State did, because I know that was really like a big point of interest for the OU offensive line. It's that defensive line, but I don't really see that with Eastern Michigan, because they have only like 6 sacks on the year so far compared to the Bobcats' 13. So I really don't see much of a standout within that Eastern Michigan defense to where it should be like the Ball State game. But I feel like they should go in there and take it as seriously as they did like Northern Illinois they did this past week, or Rutgers, or any of the out-of-conference opponents that they did.
Yeah, and you just talked about the secondary there. Eastern Michigan, they're 2-6, but they've got a gunslinger back there, quarterback Noah Kim. He's one of the best quarterbacks. Mac, he threw 4 touchdowns, 2 picks last week against Miami, and that was a close game, 30-44 with Miami, which I don't know. That could kind of give us a little preview of kind of both these 2 games coming up. But, it'll be interesting to see if the secondary can bottle him up. They've played really well all season. We've harped on how there's a lot of defensive identity in this team. A lot of guys step up kind of each week. And so it's going to be a really interesting game this Saturday for the Bobcats. And now moving on into our next segment, OU Volleyball. This team continues to just get more wins. I love to see it. This is a team we kind of talked about all season long, kind of struggled, but they're really starting to pull together. Craig, how did the Bobcats get it done this weekend?
Well, yeah, like it started off on Thursday, a lot tougher of a match. This one went to like full sets and extended fifth. It was like the Eastern Michigan took the first set by like a good margin. I think it was like 7 or 8 points. And the Bobcats took, of course, sets 2 and 3, with set 2 being really close, and set 3 won by like an 8-point margin. So they were trying to put them away there. Eastern Michigan would also take a 4th set, and into an extended fifth set that the Bobcats would narrowly win like 16-14. Very impressed with Kendall White, as you guys have been talking about all year, with 53 assists and 8 blocks in the match. Those 53 assists were a team leading. I was also really impressed with Gentry Brown. Aside from like a setting kind of role, like she played an all-rounder kind of role with a season high of 21 digs and 12 kills, both top 3 on the team for that game, keeping the ball off the floor and like also scoring as well.
Yeah, so it was a great game on Thursday, but they played them again, another series on Friday. They had an impressive win on Thursday, so, was the same effort there on Friday. Effort was kind of issue of concern a little bit this season, so I don't know how they do with their game on Friday.
Oh, Friday was a much easier game for them. It feels like they really had Eastern Michigan's number. It was much more comfortable of a match. The Bobcats won sets 1 and 2 handily with a combined of 30 kills and 6 errors through 2 sets, which is like a great margin right there. Mm-hmm. Eastern Michigan took a very close third set. It was kind of like an outlier. It was 27-25, so they really pushed out there. And then OU, of course, closed it out in the fourth, 25-18. Taking like the match 3-1, so it was almost a sweep right there. It was very efficient, only 13 errors the entire game, which is a season low for them. And like, of course, you're talking about like effort and like efficiency is a big thing. Another great game for Gentry Brown, which really impressed me this weekend with 16 kills leading the team. Like, I think she's a sophomore as an outside hitter. That's really impressive, taking more like kind of like a leadership role in these over the weekends I saw. And their libero, Kendall Hickey, of course, is going to lead that defense with the team leading 15 digs paired with 4 assists and a like excellent facilitating role right there.
And, Craig, you talked about a lot of players right there who've kind of stepped up. I feel like this season for volleyball, it's been really about them trying to refine their identity. It's a new season, new players, new coaches. So, they've won, they're on a hot streak right now. They've won 5 straight games. They started MAC play 0-4, and now they're sitting at 5-4. And, they've really kicked it up a level, and I'll talk about a little bit of the MAC standings for volleyball later. But, question just for everyone on the table, do you think that this volleyball team who is kind of has this resurgence, do you think they could be a serious contender within the MAC to close it out?
Absolutely. I think we talked about earlier in the season that they struggled to build momentum early, and they struggled to really find their identity. 5 straight wins, they finally settled into the MAC play, and after a couple of difficult losses to we saw them lose at Charlotte, we saw them lose to Furman, we saw them drop that early game to Toledo and Bowling Green. Mm-hmm. Now they're back in the win column. They're building momentum as MAC play moves forward, and back-to-back against Ball State, who we've seen be really good year in and year out. It's going to be really interesting to see if the Bobcats can continue to build that momentum as the season continues.
And building momentum has kind of been the theme of this team all season. We talked about how throughout their games, they struggled, getting started earlier. They would kind of fall apart. But, they've really strung together wins these last couple weeks, which was something that I've highlighted the last couple episodes. And, they're 5-4 in conference play, but, they have 3 games this week that might be a little bit tough. So let's preview the Ball State game a little bit, Craig. This is a good Ball State team. What's going to happen in this game?
And yeah, like Connor said, we've been seeing Ball State year in and year out being like a great team. And Ball State's in the driver's seat of the MAC right now. They're sitting at 9-0 and really beating both Toledo and Bowling Green, who are ranked 2 and 3 respectively. And Ball State's offense is easily like the best in the MAC, with 3 players in the top 10 in kill rate, led by Cameron Wise, who leads the MAC with a 37.5% kill rate. And the Cardinals also have Carson Taylor, who's averaging nearly 4.5 kills per set, which also leads the MAC. It's almost unreal the amount of offense they have on their team. But the Bobcats really need to ramp up their defense in this game, especially looking at blocks. With Ohio being one of the worst teams in blocks per set in the MAC, especially against an offense like this, they're going to have to get that up, or else it's just going to be the Cardinals are going to smear them. Increasing blocks, of course, can limit the amount of kills that Ball State can have, and also put pressure on their hitters and their opposites to they maybe even create more errors and get that Ball State offense in their head. And looking especially at Ball State's weaknesses, they're a little bit more of a glass cannon with their defense, and serving aces being more of weaknesses. But of course, their offense is so good that they can make up for that as a crutch. And looking at the historical aspect, the Bobcats haven't beaten this team since 2022, and I feel especially with the streak they're on right now, I feel the Bobcats should be excited for a chance to prove themselves in this tough match.
Yeah, Craig, you're absolutely right. This is going to be a great game. Kasey, it's going to be a great game, and I think it's going to be a big test for this team that's kind of on a roll right now. So I don't know, what are you expecting in this?
I don't know what to expect, but I just thought 2 weeks ago we were looking back in the records till the 80s, looking to see how long the losing streak was. the worst record of losing streak.
Yeah.
And they were close to hitting it since the 80s. And now they've completely turned around. I'm excited.
And this is a very entertaining part of the season for them because, while it feels like, soccer's kind of winding down, this team still has a decent amount of MAC opponents to go. After Ball State, they have Kent State, which they just played a couple weeks ago and won. You got CMU, NIU. Craig, what other games coming up, are on the Bobcats' radar?
Oh, I'm looking at that Kent State game, which I feel like Ohio is, of course, circling back to them, who they just beat in a 3-0 sweep October 7th, which started this win streak. They dominated the Golden Flashes at Kent State in their first meeting, and, this time it's in Athens, which I think should really feed into, the Bobcats' energy.
Yeah.
And, looking historically again, Ohio's won, the last 12 of 13 matches between, against Kent, and, this should be, another dominant performance, which I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a layup, recovering from that Ball State no matter if they win or if they lose. If they win, keep that momentum going with, an easy win. Or if they lose, kind of get their mojo back against the Golden Flashes right there.
Yeah. And looking at the MAC standings, we talked about them all segment. Ball State at 1, Toledo, Bowling Green, Western Michigan, then OU. I think this is such an impressive lead for this team, like Kasey said, who literally we were looking at how long their last losing streak was. Since October, it really feels like this team has turned a new page. They're now 5th in the MAC at 5-4. It really just shows, how long the season kind of is. They really started to put it together through the month of September, and then October is where they're really starting to tally some wins. So I think this is going to be a really interesting week for OU volleyball, but now we're going to transition to OU soccer. So, Kasey, another women's OU sport that had 2 games this past week, kind of just recap that first Buffalo game.
Yeah, 2 games this week. Buffalo was going to be tough. They were second in the MAC. They have this goalkeeper, Lauren Pearson. She won MAC Goalie of the Year 2024. So it was going to be tough, especially with her in the net. This Buffalo game summed up how the season has gone, unfortunately. They lost 2-1. I've said it 100 times. Head coach Aaron Rodgers has said it 100 times. It's been set pieces that kill them all season. They conceded their first goal off a corner, and then the second one was a counterattack. Eva Blatz in the 27th minute and Kobe Commandant in the 64th minute, respectively. We had a goal, though. Ohio had a goal, though. Iro Fakanu put a header in, 2 minutes left in the game. Too little, too late.
Yeah.
So they did start off the week with some devastation.
Yeah, and, I think this is a point I've been talking about all season long. I feel like every episode I come on the table and say it. It's just this team, they play well, but they play well, but it can get really inconsistent. You talked about the Buffalo scored early in the first, and then they squeaked one into the second, and so that gives OU limited time to come back. They shot their first goal of the game in the 87th minute, and they outshot Buffalo in this game too. So the shots were going, but this just happened to be Buffalo's game, which Buffalo is a great MAC opponent. There's no underselling to it. Buffalo is one of the top dogs in the MAC.
Yeah.
So this was a good fight by OU, but what happened in that NIU game? A different kind of pace.
Opposite to what happened in Buffalo, where the stats look better than the result.
Mm-hmm.
This looked great overall. Northern Illinois went so much better. Huge change I noticed. Quinton Tostovan, she's a starting defender, Canadian grad student. She moved into the midfield during the Buffalo game. Buffalo set up their defensive line very awkwardly. Rodgers put her there kind of to mirror that, and I think he noticed how dynamic she was in the midfield. Yeah. He had her there again against NIU, and she had 2 goals. Mm-hmm. Starting defender, she scores 2 goals. They struggled with connection all season in the midfield. Eva Barish tore her ACL in preseason, and that was their rock in the midfield. Yeah. They moved Tostovan out of the back line, and it's super beneficial. She kind of fills in that gap. They finally had... Well, they've always had more shots and more ball control, but they actually did something meaningful with those stats. I hope to see Quinton stay in the midfield. They won 3-0 in that game, by the way. Yeah. I hope to see her stay in the midfield. There's such a slim chance of them getting into the playoffs. Yeah. Do whatever works. Do whatever scores points. But what do you guys think? You think put her back in the defense?
No, I think you got to keep her there. I talked with our showcase lead reporter, Evan Johnson, about this. He talked to Aaron Rodgers, and he said, this is one of the first times all season that Aaron Rodgers has changed the starting lineup.
Yep,
and so I think we got to have more adjustments like that, like putting Quint up to midfield because, if it's working, why not fix it?
Same thing happened with Jamison Brooker, actually.
Yeah.
Scout Murray had been taking up most of the minutes at the top, hadn't been performing. We switch it up, and Jamison had one of Tostovin's assists, and she had a goal. So why keep it the same? Switch it up, make things interesting.
Craig, did you have something to add?
Oh, I was just gonna agree with you guys. Like, I think moving her into like the midfield position. You said she had 2 goals, right?
2 goals, one
I
game.
think that really like breathes life into this team, especially when they have shots on goal and they have ball control, but they can't seem to find the back of the net. I think seeing that like the dynamic performance from her really can bring in a new form of energy into this team.
Definitely.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and we talked about kind of out last week that how big this Buffalo and NIU game was. How these games are basically play and playoff games for you. Like they need to really win out at this point to get in. They have 2 games this week, Kasey, Miami and UMass. Just kind of preview those games. These are the last 2 games of the season. What to expect for these 2.
Yeah, they're going to be heated. It's going to feel like a playoff game when you step on that pitch, on the stadium. Battle of the Bricks is going to be huge. Ohio's lost the Miami Redhawks 5 out of the last 7 of their time seeing each other. I talked to Coach Rogers after the NIU game. He told me these words, revenge is coming. So it's going to be exciting. Miami's 4th in the MAC standings. They're 8-5-2. I have a feeling that they think they're sitting pretty up there in the tournament, and they might take it easy, maybe bench a starting target, and maybe give OU the chance to slip in. OU really isn't a threat to them.
Yeah.
They're 4th. They're high up there. Do they need to risk an injury? I don't know, but it could be interesting.
That could definitely be something that happens, with these teams coming down the stretch, resting stars and seeing how that kind of shapes up in the MAC standings. And then after that Miami game, they'll play at UMass in what will be their final game of the season. UMass is right around OU standing-wise, so this is going to be heated, like you said. But this will be basically a play game, you've got to you need conference points, you need a lot of shots on goal, and this is just going to be a crucial game for OU if they want the playoffs. What are we going to expect in this one?
Yeah, so Miami looks good at spot 4. UMass is not. They're ranked 8th. They're only 1 above OU, so they have everything on the line, just like Ohio does. They are going to fight to make the top 6. There's no chance they're taking it easy on Sunday. UMass is 5-6-4. Also, this game is in Massachusetts. I think it's going to be just as physical as the Miami rivalry game because everything is on the line. Definitely, like you said, treat these games like playoffs games. It is really win or go home. Hopefully they can defend some set pieces and maybe put something to the back of the net.
It'll be interesting to see if Coach Aaron Rodgers can, shake it up with more adjustments, like putting Tostovan up in the midfield. See if that happens to any more players. But we're going to take a little peek at the MAC standings.
Yeah.
Kasey, you talked about how Miami's at 4. Above them at 1 is Western Michigan, 2 Buffalo, 3 Ball State. And then below Miami at 4 is Kent State and Bowling Green. And that is the line to make it. Only 6 teams make it. And OU is currently 9 sitting behind Eastern Michigan and UMass. We just talked about that UMass game. So, they're ranked 9th with 10 points. Kasey and I guess anyone else on the table, just key the fans in on what OU needs to do in this game, these last 2 games to make the tournament, because it's going to be tight.
It's definitely going to be tight. I want to start off with 2 things. Like you said, top 6 clinch postseason appearance, and then a loss is 0 points, a tie is 1 point, and a win is 3 points. Bottom line, OU has to win out the rest of the season. They need to beat Miami. They need to beat UMass. Those 2 wins will hopefully get them. It will, hopefully, if they win, get them to 16 points in the standings.
And they play at home against Miami tomorrow and at UMass on Sunday. So this is the final week of the season for OU.
It's do or die, 100%. A few other things have to happen other than OU needs to win out. BG cannot exceed 2 points in 3 games, which means they cannot win at all, and they can't tie more than twice. Eastern Michigan can't exceed 3 points in 2 games. Same thing. They can't win. UMass can't exceed 5 points in 3 games, so they can't win more than once. And this could get crazy. Depending on how the upcoming games go, OU could possibly need BGSU and UMass to tie to make sure that neither of them get to that 3 point and they each only get 1. The margins are so slim, but anything could happen.
Yeah, they need a lot of dominoes to kind of fall in their order. It's very similar like how we see with like NFL or college football standings where, it really comes down to relying on another team's fate kind of controlling yours. So it should be a great close to the season, very entertaining close to the season for this team to see if they can pull off those wins and sneak into the playoffs. But now we're going to switch away from our OU sports and into the MLB. The World Series are now here. We kind of saw the last couple games of the NL and AL last week. You got the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. Connor, this is a World Series game. It's going to be an interesting one. What do you think is going to happen here?
Oh, Luke, I mean, we had a fantastic AL and NL divisional series. And, I mean, what better setup to have for a World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays? I mean, so let's first take a step back. We've got our National League preview with the Dodgers going on an absolute run. 4-game absolute sweep. Great warm-up. They put the momentum that they wanted in and really got the engine running as the postseason got started. 15 combined runs to 4 to the Brewers in a 4-game series. I mean, they put on a show. I cannot lie, from the very first pitch of the first playoff game that the Dodgers had, when Ohtani just absolutely sent that thing flying against the Reds, I had a feeling that it was going to be another one of those kind of runs for the Dodgers. I mean, you cap off your divisional series with one of the all-time performances.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it in my notes. Like, this is a performance that you will have documentaries made about. 10 strikeouts, 3 home runs. I mean, a playoff series like that, a cap off like that, and I mean, you go into the World Series, if they play like they have the beginning of the playoffs, Ohtani's going to be sitting at a table with a lot of big names at the end of this season.
Yeah, and this is a Dodgers team, they won last year. This is kind of, this is the biggest market in baseball. They have some of the biggest contracts in the association. So many big names, Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, anyone else, what can the Blue Jays do? But, because it kind of feels like it's like almost a David and Goliath type walking into the Dodgers situation.
The one thing that I love about the Mariners is I'll recap the American League Series here in a sec, and the one thing that I love so much about the Blue Jays is they play a very similar style to the Guardians, where their whole style is get people on base, make contact, and continue to score runs however possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Game 7 American League Series, you get the Mariners and the Blue Jays in what will probably go down as one of the best Game 7s we've seen in a very long time against the Mariners. Because, I mean, Seattle takes a 3-2 lead after a 6-2 win over the Blue Jays that people thought was like, all right, cool, they have one more game, they close this out, and they'll go play the Dodgers. Blue Jays rip off back-to-back wins in closing that out with an 8-run showing against the Mariners, and they set up a Game 7 that, I mean, Bieber gets pulled after 4 innings, but I mean, he had a really nice showing. Yeah. Josh Naylor with an RBI. I mean, we have 2 Guardians shout-outs, I'm just gonna say, already in this segment. But I mean, Josh Naylor with the RBI early, and then you have Rodriguez and Raleigh both have huge home runs to get the Mariners up early.
Yeah.
A killer defensive performance through the back end of the game, and then Andres Jimenez takes a sac bunt to get runners on second and third. George Springer takes an absolute nuke into left center field to send the Blue Jays up. And then you get, I mean, one of the best closer performances you could ask for out of Jeff Hoffman. Perfect 9th inning, 3 strikeouts, send the Mariners home, and cap off what will be considered one of the greatest runs that the Blue Jays could have put up to get to what will be, like you said, it's going to be a David and Goliath series. But I mean, what a way to go.
Yeah, and the Blue Jays, they've been in the World Series before in 1992, 1993, beat the Braves and the Phillies. So it's been kind of a minute since they've been there. But this is a team that has won before, and Connor, I think it's going to be an interesting series. This is kind of like, and we've seen this like NBA too, like the Dodgers are coming off a 4-0 sweep and the Blue Jays are coming off a Game 7. So, could that, Game 7 first, like a sweep kind of change, how the series turns out? Are the Blue Jays going to be a little bit more tired compared to the Dodgers? What do you think is going to happen?
There's a really interesting thing that happened a long time ago that I was thinking I might be able to bring up for a little bit. Dodgers upset. I believe it was a Dodgers upset in the 80s. I mean, nobody saw that coming. I have a feeling that we could see a bit of a flipped script that way because I mean, the Blue Jays this season have what could only be described as like a perfect storm in this. I mean, they've got veteran pitchers that are making a really good presence. They have an entire offense that is built around some incredible contact hitters, and they have a really good opportunity to kind of like get an early jump against the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are, of course, like you said, they were the Goliath in this situation. Staff writers for The Athletic have them picked 80% to 20% over the Blue Jays. And I mean, they have an absolute host of reasons why that's going to happen. I mean, an incredibly well-rounded bullpen. And the interesting move that we saw in the series against the Brewers, switching Roki Sasaki to a closer instead of one of their more rotational pitchers, I mean, he shut everybody down. Yeah. They threw him in the 7th and the 8th inning, and nobody can hit against him in the first place. It's a great move for the LA bullpen. I mean, in my opinion, I'm going to pitch it to the table to hear what everybody else says. Yeah. I love the Blue Jays, and I think unless the Dodgers steal Game 1 and Game 2, it's Toronto's series to win. I mean, they throw a couple early punches, and I have a little bit of faith in some familiar faces.
All right, I like that pick, Connor. Craig.
I'm gonna have to agree with Connor. I like the Blue Jays here. I mean, as he said, like the Mariners looked like they were gonna put them away, and then Toronto comes roaring back, and like classic Cinderella story that we're looking at here, and like. There's even larger things at stake. Toronto's like the Blue Jays are the only Canadian representative. Yeah. So this is like almost a classic America versus Canada kind of battle. And like upset story. Everyone loves an underdog. And I'm gonna take the underdog here. I like the Jays.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be an odd dog out. I really like the Dodgers.
Yeah.
But I mean, Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero is carrying them on his back. If they can have someone else step up other than Vladdy, I really think they could take the series. Yeah. But for right now, I think it is the Dodgers to take.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting series. See if the Blue Jays can pull off that, storybook upset. The first game of the World Series will be this Friday. Should be an interesting series. Both teams have a little bit of a break compared to the other playoff games. So we'll see if both teams rested can, do battle. And we'll see who comes out on top. But that's going to transition us to college football. We had some great games last week. USC, Notre Dame, Utah, BYU with a great one. LSU, Vanderbilt, another great one. Ole Miss, Georgia. I mean, I could just go off all day long. So, kind of just break down these college football games for us. And, I don't know, what were your favorite games?
Honestly, in the car ride back down, I was watching that Miami-Louisville game. I have to say, it could possibly be upset of the year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's at Miami. Louisville, they're coming in unranked. ACC versus ACC conference game, and then Louisville picks off Carson Beck. Yeah. I think it was like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, that did not look great.
No,
Four picks,
not at all.
Picks, yeah.
But, to round out, USC at Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat USC 34-24. You have the Holy War, Utah at BYU. BYU won in a close one. It was 24-21. LSU, Vandy. Vandy beat LSU at home 31-24, which also maybe upset.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, Georgia. I was distraught about this game because it was my upset. But Georgia beat Ole Miss in a good fourth quarter from the Bulldogs, 43-35. Tennessee, Bama. Bama, they just walked Tennessee like a dog, 37-20. And then obviously that Louisville-Miami game, They sealed it with a game-winning pick, 24-21. This slate of college football is probably up there for best slate of the year.
Yeah. And, you just talked about it, Reece, 3 great SEC games, really kind of like determining, kind of the fate of the SEC. There was a headline last year where it was like the most SEC teams like we'd ever seen in the top 25. There's a whole crew of them again this year. In those 3 games, did that kind of determine, who will be the favorite, or do you still think like it is anyone's to take?
I really think there's a few favorites, but same time, it's college football. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen. Yeah. We could see Vandy up there.
Yeah.
Vandy in the SEC championship. Mm-hmm. I don't know the last time when that happened, but we could see it. Mm-hmm. But I really think, Bama's up there with the top dogs. Yeah. I could still see Ole Miss being up there. Vandy's up there. LSU's kind of falling off. But, really, I think it's starting to get set. Yeah. But I still think it's anyone's conference to win.
Mm-hmm. And you got a really good SEC game coming up a lot of them actually coming up this week. You just talked about Vanderbilt. They're number 10th right now behind Diego Pavia and all that team is doing. And you've got Missouri, who is, they just lost. Who did they lose to? Not last week, the week before that. Was that Bama?
It was Bama, yes.
To Bama. So, they had that loss, but they played well last week. So that'll be a great game. There's some other good ones. You've got Ole Miss, Oklahoma in a game that will kind of really determine kind of the fate of both these two teams. Oklahoma and Ole Miss, they've lost 2 kind of big games. Oklahoma lost to Texas. Ole Miss lost to Georgia last week. Reece, any of these previews or games coming up this week on the horizon looks good to you?
I do like Missouri versus Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. I never thought in a million years I would see 15-10 next to them. I did a little bit of digging. This is Vandy's first time being in the top 10 since 1947.
Wow. Holy moly.
So, is Vandy football back? I
like them.
I am a very big Vandy fan as of right now. Diego Pavia, one of my favorite quarterbacks right now in the SEC, honestly behind Trinidad, but we won't really get into that. I do like this. It's a G5 game, USF at Memphis.
Ooh, yep.
It's a really good game. Honestly, we'll decide who is the G5 lock for the playoffs this year. UCLA, Indiana. I also do like this game. UCLA, after firing their head coach, is on a 3-game winning streak. They believe they're 3-1, 3-0 in conference play. Should be a good game. It is at Indiana though, so I would like the favorite Indiana in that one. And then you did talk about Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Yeah. Might be the best game on this slate.
Yeah, that's going to be a great slate. Kind of circling back to Vanderbilt just a little bit, that game against Alabama last year, where they beat Alabama, they took off the goalposts, that I think will be such a crucial part of their history moving forward, because before that, Vanderbilt was not the best team in the SEC. It was one of the worst teams in the SEC. And these last 2 years, they've turned it around so well. And I don't know, I like this new trajectory this team's on. It's kind of like the reverse Stanford. We talked about Stanford a couple weeks ago, where Stanford's kind of fallen off the wagon. That we're a good football team, and Vanderbilt's coming back up. So it's cool to see that with the college football teams. And this is just something I saw on social media recently. I kind of want to post to you guys. People were kind of upset that there could be a potential USF Georgia Tech matchup in the college football championship. And I'm sure this doesn't matter to you guys, but I don't know. Like, do you like those group of 5 games more, or do you want more like big Power 4 teams?
I think that the Group 5 games, the G5 games, are honestly good for the culture. I think opening up the CFB to everyone and like not just the same like Power 4 schools duke it out every single year is honestly great for college football, and seeing maybe sometimes a G5 school make a run. That's why it's there, and that's why I like how they're kind of following almost what like men's basketball is doing, women's basketball, where they kind of open it up and see who can win.
Mm-hmm. Give me the Yellow Jackets. Yeah. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, every once in a while you see like small schools go on big runs, and I mean, especially when Georgia Tech continues to just put up these incredible performances. I mean, they beat my forever rival hate school, Clemson. I mean, then they beat I mean, Temple, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech. I mean, a continued dominant run, and I mean, I would love to see them be the group of like a good representative in the CFB.
Yeah, Kasey.
Cincinnati had a good run in the playoffs a few years ago.
Great.
I like it. If they can get there, then they deserved it, and they deserve to have that chance. Why not?
And speaking of teams like that, there's those dogs at the top like OSU, Georgia, Bama. Going into the season, we kind of knew they'd be up there, but I really love the I forget the word for it, but there's a lot of craziness going on in college football world this season. Texas and Penn State, teams that were literally projected to be maybe 1 and 2 at some point, because there was a lot of love to those two teams in the offseason. Penn State's not ranked, and Texas is 22. So those teams gave way to a team like Indiana to come up. And another team that's really came up is Texas A&M. They had a down year last year. They had Connor Wegman at quarterback. This year they have Marcel Reed. Reece, another great game this week, A&M at LSU. How big is this game? I guess even more for LSU, because I think if they lose this game, Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers, they're in a rough spot.
They will be. I mean, it's going to send them unranked.
Yeah.
For sure, 100%. They're number 20 in the nation. But at the same time, I feel like A&M, they have a lot to lose with little to win. They're third in the nation right now, just behind Indiana, OSU. They're heading to Baton Rouge. So, Death Valley, it's a very hard place to play, which should be somewhat of a competition for them. But at the same time, what they're building down there in College Station, I really see it being little to lose for LSU, but a lot to win, and then a lot to lose for A&M, and a lot to win for A&M.
And A&M has a really favorable schedule after this. They don't run into Alabama or Georgia at all. They play 15 Missouri and 22 Texas, but outside of that, they have South Carolina and Stanford. So, they could very easily, they win this game at LSU, they could possibly go undefeated and have a really great resume for the college football playoffs. But let's switch over from the college football world to the NFL. We just talked a lot about division wins against SEC opponents. Let's look at a big division win. Let's start with the Bengals. They beat the Steelers last Thursday. What a game that was. I feel like any AFC North game can kind of go either way. I honestly saw that Bengals one coming. I knew the Steelers were going to drop in a little bit. But, let's just talk about that Bengals game.
I mean, you want me to talk about the Unk Bowl, the Retirement Home Rumble, the battle of the bad and the worst. I love AFC North football. I mean, I have to do this for former legend of the show, Darius Sethna. I have to call them the Bungles this week. The Bungles scraped together what I can only be described as the best possible outcome for their current situation. I mean, the Steelers looked fraudulent. I mean, that defense got cooked.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase, 16 catches for 161 yards and a touchdown on 23 targets. T. Higgins was 96 yards, I believe, like few steps shy of 100 yards. And, I mean, Joe Flacco, 3 touchdowns, 340-plus yards. Looking like a prime candidate for, you love to see it. And I have to point out, like, Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey need to
Ramsey got cooked.
They may never step foot in the city of Pittsburgh again. I mean, there needs to be a fix in that Steelers playbook, or they're going to continue to lose more and more of these winnable games to teams that they should be beating. I mean, all they do is blitz, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's what they're known for. But, like, it's the middle of the third, and they've run the same 7 blitz plays over and over again. Like, Mike Tomlin's going to start being in the hot seat if they continue to just go 9-8 every season, because their first-round exit of the playoffs is not going to do anything for people after the 17th straight time they've done that. I mean, let's be real here. But go ahead.
But the Steelers, they have a pretty tough schedule. They play Packers this week. They've got the Colts after that, Chargers, Bengals again. The Bears are on the rise, the Bills. So that's going to be a tough schedule for them. And just kind of the bigger picture of the AFC North, the Bengals are right back up there now. Ravens, Lamar Jackson's been hurt. Their defense has been hurt. They're kind of down there with the Browns right now. But I think it's back to the Bengals have a fair chance to steal that spot.
I mean, it is right now as the Steelers continue to face a tough schedule. The Bengals have more than every opportunity to kind of make their jump back into the game. But it'll be interesting to see how the entirety of the AFC North continues to kind of like implode on itself as it does every season, where everybody just kind of beats the tar out of each other. Because, I mean, now we've got former Brown, Raven, etc., Joe Flacco with the Bengals. I mean, if by some miracle they get any sort of like revival for the back end of their season, it'll be interesting to see if they can make some sort of a playoff push as they have. I mean, what is the Bengals schedule by chance?
Yeah, I got it pulled up right here. You know, they play the Jets this week. Some Bengals fans think this will be a trap game. If they lose that game, there's going to be a lot of war in the streets of Cincinnati. But they still
Zach Taylor may never
I don't know
walk out of that building. He may not walk out of Paycor Stadium or whatever it's called these days.
But even then, like, they play the Bears, Patriots, Bills. They've got some hard games, but some favorable games. So it'll be interesting to see down the stretch, you know, which schedule's more favorable because I think it's the Bengals Steelers. I don't know if the Ravens will be able to come back once Lamar is back, just with so many other players on their defense injured. But, you know, we had another Ohio win with the Cleveland Browns beating the Dolphins. Defense looked like it was like the no-fly zone of Denver. Oh my gosh.
We'll get into the defense later against the I would love to play the number 32nd ranked defense in the week and the worst offense of all time every week. Oh my gosh. Bad. It's so like I was standing there at work and I was just having a field day laughing at the Dolphins because I mean Dylan Gabriel throws 116 yards, 0 interceptions, doesn't throw a touchdown, but I mean he was still like he was moving the football and they opened up the playbook. Judkins absolutely obliterated the Dolphins offense, 84 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, I would like to make a massive point for the people at home that the Browns ran Quinshon Judkins at Wildcat in the red zone multiple times, and it worked. Like, this is unbelievable stuff. I am elated at this. And then, okay, I'm putting my tinfoil hat on for the people because the defense is, okay, you show an absolutely shut-down performance against the Dolphins. So Jim Schwartz is so deep in his bag at this point that I'm getting on a soapbox to talk about the defense. So 6th highest percentage of snaps in man-to-man coverage in the league, 34.5%. Okay. They're taking advantage of the fact that they have lockdown secondary. I mean, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, fantastic guys. And they know that their front line is going to create a nightmare for the Dolphins. So they switch the entire playbook. Yeah. I mean, against the Dolphins, they're running zone coverage 86% of snaps, and they're just going unbelievable stuff against this is the most that they've run zone coverage in the entirety of Schwartz's tenure at DC. Wow. Flip the entire script against the Dolphins and shut them down. Yeah. I mean, this is not something you see every day out of a defense. To completely flip your style of defense from a dominant man-to-man coverage and on a dime, you're showing how capable you are of cooking somebody. Yeah. Tua's QBR is cut in half against zone defense compared to man defense. 122 QBR to a 66 against the zone defense. Like they're right there. They have a couple of questions on offense. Yep. I will not lie about that, but I mean, let's be real here. The defense is the truth. We saw a couple of falters last season after injuries and stuff like that, but they found the right people. I'm going to start listing players until I get cut off here because like Carson Schlesinger, Mason Graham, Myles Garrett, like every single player on this defense was making plays every single time. Please cut me off now because good Lord, I am so happy about how the Browns defense played.
Yeah, Reese.
I just want to ask you a question, Connor.
Go for it.
What do you think of that Tyson Campbell trade?
Look, I don't care because let's be real here. The first play I saw for Greg Newsome in a Jags uniform was him getting absolutely dusted against the Seahawks. Like I absolutely love what he did with the Browns. See ya. Tyson Campbell is a lot better. I can't
Yeah.
lie. I mean, the statement opening performance out of him. I mean, like, read Tua like a book. You see a batted pass, you run that back to the house.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Connor, that's just great defensive insight to see how like a defensive coordinator like that can completely like flip the script on a team, and he made Tua's life a nightmare. We'll see what happens with the Dolphins front office, but let's very quickly preview the schedules for this week. I kind of just talked about it. You know, the Bengals play the Jets, who are winless. Tyrod Taylor, I don't think Aaron Glenn has actually determined the starter yet. I think Taylor gets a little bit of buzz, but we'll see what happens there. We'll see if the Bengals can build momentum. We'll also see if the Browns can defeat the Pats. The Pats are rolling high at 5-2. Might talk about that one a little bit later.
I might have a
little
couple things to
spoiler.
say about that. We'll see.
We're going to transition into Read and React, where I pick a news headline across sports. And, you know, we're going to start with a headline, Giants-Broncos. I'm a huge Broncos fan. This game gave me several heart attacks. But, you know, this was just a great game. And, you know, I don't know if anyone else at the table wants to comment on this, but, you know, it was so fun to watch. You know, they were playing terribly in the first half. You know, I was ready to shout the praises of Sean Payton to the streets, or at least him giving up play calling. But Bo Nix led that comeback so well. And I'm such a big Bo Nix believer. I mean, obviously I'm a fan, but I want him to succeed so well. And, you know, when Dart scored that last diving touchdown, I was like, I hope that's a touchdown. So Bo Nix has 30 seconds because I believe in him to win this game.
Like, I mean, I feel like at some point in that fourth quarter, Bo Nix realized that he was playing the New York Giants, even if it is the new New York Giants team with Scata CTE and Jackson Dart. I think Bo Nix realized he was playing the New York Giants, and he's just like, oh, wait, I can beat this team. And then, like, of course, never leave a game up to Will Lutz because he is going to kick it good because, like, that's what Will Lutz does. He's always done that. So that's my opinion on that.
It'll be interesting to see the Broncos this week against another NFC opponent with the Cowboys. That's actually my sister's favorite team. A little bit of fandom dueling in the household, but another big headline in football. This one for college. You know, Nick Saban had something to say about James Franklin firing. You know, he thought it was unfair. You know, he said that Franklin rebuilt Penn State, you know, brought them kind of to the top of the college football world. They made appearances. You know, this happened on game day. So, I don't know. Do you guys agree with Saban? Do you think, like, Franklin deserves a little bit of, a little bit of, like, support or faith? I don't know.
I am 18 years old. James Franklin is the coach. I'm a Penn State fan.
Okay.
The coach I grew up with, I had tears. I was in tears. I love him. I think that his reign was ending. Could have waited till the end of the season. I agree with Saban.
As a non-Penn State fan, I don't think as a team and coach that gets glazed every year that you can lose to a AP top 5 or top 10 opponent or even a top 25 opponent, lose at UCLA this year. And just, like, you can't lose in the biggest moments.
That isn't immediate grounds for firing them.
I mean, if they say the same stuff about Ryan Day. And
the best coaches get their
fire him. One game.
I mean, the best coaches will get fired when they're not winning the big games.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when you're 4-21 against top 10 opponents, the people will continue to call for your head.
I just wish they waited till the end of the season.
I agree that it probably would have been the best decision to fire him at the end of the season, but also James Franklin. I'm not a big fan. Ohio State better.
It's just nostalgia. I'm sorry.
I agree with Saban, honestly. I agree because, you know, it's college football at the end of the day. Anything can happen. If you need a new face at the helm of Penn State to start winning, you need to do that immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to flip this around and maybe contend for the college football playoffs, you have to make a change immediately.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with Saban.
Yeah. You know, and speaking of contending teams, Reese, there are only 6 undefeated teams left in the college football world. You know, obviously you have Ohio State, Indiana, A&M at the top, 1, 2, and 3 respectively. But you still have the Yellow Jackets. You got BYU, great game. I was talking to my cousin who goes there about that game. Great game against Utah. And Navy are also back as they kind of were last year. So, I don't know, are these... all those 3 teams, you know, there's kind of 3 at the top, you know, 3 still ranked, but, you know, kind of still fighting, you know. which of these teams do you think will stay undefeated the longest? And I don't know. What do you think will happen there?
I have all the faith in the world in Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M. And, I mean, Georgia Tech has a pretty solid remainder of the schedule. I mean, they've got Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, and Pittsburgh. And then they've got another top-ranked matchup in Georgia, which will be a good test to see if they are really ready for a college football playoff.
Yeah.
My mother will have my head if I say anything bad about Navy. And, I mean, all love in the world of the Storm and Mormons, but they'll probably end up dropping a game at some point. But I mean, besides that, I mean, I have all the faith in the world that we could see a pretty solid college football playoff slate locked in as we reach the final weeks of the college football season.
And that's all via David Ovens' article from The Athletic. It's actually a great article. We could talk about that for, we could talk about that for a while because he lists many, the conference previews, who's on the bubble, who goes where. And in this final kind of headline, kind of segue into NBA, last night, opening night, Thunder defeated the Rockets 125-124 in double overtime. I picked the Rockets to upset the Thunder in my upset watch pick last week. They looked so close for a second. They were leading until like very end of the fourth quarter. So it was just a
SGA
wild
fell
game.
late in the second overtime.
Yeah. There was so much going on. There's a lot of basketball to be played. For an opening night game, it was just a clash of the Titans. Like you saw the new look Rockets. You also kind of saw them how they kind of flailed in overtime without a guard once Ahmad Thompson went out. So that was a great game last night. The Lakers and Warriors that played last night too. Warriors won that without LeBron. And tonight we have the Cavs at the Garden. Play the Knicks in their opener. Connor,
Oh, yeah.
our vibe's high. What are you going into this game with?
I'm so excited to see how the Cavs start this season. I mean, every opportunity to start 1-0 as they take on the Knicks in MSG. I mean, Cat will be playing. I mean, that news broke 45 minutes ago or so. It'll be really nice to see. I mean, the Cavs don't have Darius Garland tonight, but I mean, I am so excited to see how Lonzo Ball is going to be playing. Thomas Bryant is a backup big. I am stoked to see how he is going to play, especially because having a physical big man down low is exactly what the Cavs need. Evan Mobley, shout out to him. He'll be one of the 3 players this season rocking the gold logo on his jerseys, which is sick. They started that this season. I think it's him, SGA, and I'm forgetting Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year last year?
Yeah.
Was that I'm blanking. It wasn't Reece Merkel.
Was it Castle?
Yeah, it was Castle. You're right.
All 3 of them will have the little gold NBA logos on their
that's
jersey
cool.
all season.
That's a nice touch.
Which will
That's a
be
good way to present.
a great little moment for them. I mean, I'm stoked that the Cavs are going to have this is their season to win the East. I mean, no Jason Tatum, no Tyrese Halliburton. We saw the ACL or the Achilles monster strike again. And let's be real here, like the Cavs have the East is in the Cavs bag if they do not take their foot off the gas. There will probably be a point later in the season where I will make my regards about the Cavs not taking their foot off the gas because that's a whole other ordeal. But, I mean, I'm stoked to see how they play this season.
Yeah, Reese,
I just wanted to mention, for the first time in 23 years, LeBron has not played on opening day.
Wow.
First time in 23 years.
Fun facts about that. The last time the NBA had an opening night without LeBron, USB flash drives did not exist. The Chappelle Show was not on TV. Facebook did not exist on the internet.
Whoa.
And Kelly Clarkson had just won American Idol. Thank you for reminding me of that, Reese. I had these. I sent these to Jake Collins, shout out, before the show. And I needed to remember that.
I saw it on Instagram earlier, and I was like, you know what? I have to bring this up when we talk NBA. It is a key point. I mean, I live with someone who is a very big LeBron fan, so I just kind of had to mention this.
Yeah, Reese, it's weird seeing, an opening season without LeBron, first time in so long. But now we're going to transition to our final segment in Upset Watch. I talked about how I got my NBA pick wrong this week. We'll see how we can do. We have 8 correct, 24 incorrect, 33% from the field. Let's see if we can pick that up this week. Kasey, let's start with you. Going to the college football world, we kind of glazed over this one a little bit before, but what do you have?
I have UCLA over number 2 Indiana. It's a stretch. They are plus 25.5. I believe, though, as a Penn State fan, I feel a little guilty, but UCLA has beaten a top 10 team before this season. It was Penn State. I'm sorry, Dad. This sucks. This is hard to say, but I think they have the momentum. They haven't lost since they beat Penn State. They beat Michigan State, and they beat Maryland. They also have an interim head coach, Tim Skipper. Interim head coach, willing to make gutsy decisions. I feel like it's possible.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Let's stick with football. Let's go to the NFL. Craig and Connor both have the Ohio teams. Craig, let's start with you.
Okay, I have the Jets. Oh, my 0-7 Jets. I'm not even a Jets fan, but I just like them. Winning against the Bengals,
game.
I don't care how much I love my favorite unk, Joe Flacco. I love him to death. The Jets are 6.5-point underdogs, although the Bengals literally just played probably their best game of the season. I think they might take a step back. And as they say in MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, Jets, 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 Jets. Let's go.
All right, I'm here for that pick. Could be a trap game. I could 100% see that happening with the direction of the team coaching-wise. But Connor, other Ohio team, let's get it.
I mean, you love to see another trap game, a 6.5-point underdog for your Cleveland Browns. I am taking the team with the power of friendship once again. I mean, I got on my soapbox about the defense. I don't care how good Drake May and the Patriots look. Mike Vrabel, you're awesome, dude. But, I mean, the Browns are the Browns. If you weren't rocking with us at 1-5, don't rock with us at 12-5. Just have a competent offensive game. Let the defense do their thing, and the Browns should be able to get that momentum going as they'll roll into like Patriots, Jets, and then some divisional opponents. I'm excited to see how they keep moving.
Yeah, leaving the NFL for our last upset watch. Reese, taking my footsteps, doing an NBA pick. What do you got for us tonight?
So at the time of this recording, the game has not started, but I have the Heat over the Magic. They're 8.5-point underdogs. I saw your little note in there earlier, Connor. I'm so sorry for stealing your pick, but I did this at noon today. But I have the Heat over the Magic.
I like that pick, Reese. I could see, honestly, any of those. Casey, yours is a little bit more of a stretch, but I could easily see that happening. Some great picks. But that is going to wrap up our show today. We're going to finish with our weekly awards with SportsBeat Game and Player of the Week. Our SportsBeat Game of the Week is Ohio Soccer's matchup against Miami, Ohio on Thursday. This is a do-or-die game for OU Soccer to make the conference tournament, and Miami is in the top 4 in the MAC standings. Battle of the Bricks and tournament implications. This is a great Game of the Week pick for SportsBeat. And then for our SportsBeat Player of the Week, we have C.A. Bandura. We talked about it during our segment. He ran all over the field. He totaled 147 yards on 22 carries with 3 touchdowns. He and Duncan Broom really paved the way for Ohio's victory against NIU, so congrats to CA for win. Thank you for listening to SportsBeat on WOUB. I'm your host, Luke Schmitt, and with me today is
Reece Merkel.
Connor Mallon.
Kasey Hill.
And Craig Neal.
You can listen to us on WOUB 1340 AM radio at 9 p.m. or search us online at woub.org/listen, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Don't forget you can follow us on Instagram at SportsBeatWOUB for more digital content. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.